When I first started my journey in artwork, I hate that phrase by the way. I thought that if you wanted to get really good at painting, you only had to do one thing: paint. Paint a lot and paint often. I thought that if I could paint for 10,000 hours or more, I would be able to paint anything I want, it would be easy, and I'd be really good at it. But it didn't take me long to realize that I couldn't be further from the truth. So let's talk about it. And while we do that, I'll be finishing this super sad octopus painting that I started a couple of weeks ago. The painting and prints will be available at the end of the video. Also, if you want to see more of my artwork in the future, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now let's explore how I essentially learned to paint anything I want and why the 10,000 hour rule is more counterintuitive than you might think. Okay, so when I was younger, I believed in the 10,000 hour rule. If you've never heard of it, it's the idea that it takes roughly 10,000 hours of practice to master a skill. To put that into perspective, it's like binge watching Adventure Time from episode 1 to the very end, plus the movies, 182 times over. But the problem with that simple calculation is that it ignores all the small factors that it takes to master any skill. Even if you spend the next 10 years painting nothing but landscapes and you get really good at it, that doesn't mean that you can do a portrait on an 8-foot wall. Just like a short story writer might struggle with writing a novel, or a figure skater might struggle to skateboard. Really big canvases and small canvases demand completely different techniques, a completely different perspective, and a whole new understanding of proportion. It's not as simple as enlarging what you know. It's about adapting and relearning things on a different scale. A tiny brushstroke that adds detail and brings a small canvas to life gets lost on a large scale, and the same is true the other way around. Just because you can paint something on a large scale doesn't mean that you can do the same when you're painting on small canvases. And the reality is that most people can't translate their knowledge well to a different medium or scale. They simply have no experience doing it, and that's not even taking into account different subjects or different genres. Trying to transition from painting peaceful landscapes to capturing the energy of superheroes, or shifting from realist style paintings to abstract style paintings. It all requires more than just a different subject. It's more like changing your mindset about the techniques you'll use and even the emotions you're trying to convey and relate to. Of course, it's easier to transition from one area to another if you at least have some basic understanding of the fundamentals. But to really get good at something or to even master it, you actually have to do it. That's where I feel that I've always had an advantage. When I started, I was painting planets with spray paint. When I got bored of that, I wanted to do something else. Every time I saw a cool technique, I wanted to try it, or to do something else entirely. The 10,000 hour rule is honestly unrealistic. I know artists with way more experience than I do, but their art looks exactly the same way it looked 5 years ago. No improvement, no change, and no evolution. And some of them are the most popular artists on YouTube and Instagram, but their art style and the work they're doing never seems to change. Of course, why change when it's working? For me, I like to see the evolution in my artwork though. I like seeing how it's changed and how it's improved over time. If I had painted this image 5 or 10 years ago, I would have been able to paint a fun and cool looking painting, but I definitely would not have been able to paint with the same level of detail. I might not have been able to create the illusion of light and shadow, or the deep sorrowful eyes of this character. I might have been able to create something that kind of looks three-dimensional, but I would have painted the same way and with the same techniques that I was using at the time. And as a result, everything would have looked flatter and less impressive. So one of the things that I was lucky to realize early on is that if you want to be able to paint metal clouds, wood people, fire giants, abstract shapes, or anything else that you could possibly imagine, you actually have to do it. Which is basically what I did for many years. I would paint and sketch anything that looked remotely interesting or anything that I imagined. I was curious to discover how to replicate and recreate what I saw or imagined. But that's only one part of the equation. Because even if you did that for the next 10,000 hours or even the next 100 years, it doesn't mean that you'll automatically get good at it. If you want to get really good at something, you have to do what's called deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is a term coined by psychologist Anders Ericsson, and it's not any form of practice. It's very intentional practice. You specifically target areas you want to improve. Just spending hours holding a paintbrush, playing guitar, or practicing free throws doesn't guarantee that you'll ever get good at it without focus. Those hours can become just repetition, and there's no growth or evolution through repetition. This is one of the reasons why I love using transfer paper. I could benefit a little from freehanding my sketch onto my canvas, but I drew this sketch once, and the fastest way to start painting is to transfer the sketch and start painting. It saves me hours of work, and the sketch looks perfect every time. Anything that will allow you to make more paintings, or practice painting more often, or to paint more efficiently is not your enemy. It's a huge advantage when you use transfer paper or a projector or any of the hundreds of tips and tricks out there. You're allowing yourself to bypass some of the initial steps that might be more related to drawing or sketching. And you can quickly get to the heart of painting, which is of course playing with color, shading, textures, and different techniques. What it does is allow you to deliberately focus on the painting process itself. Also, there's another realization that helped me gain the ability to paint pretty much anything I want. And that's to have an open mind and throw out all the so-called rules and conventions in the world of art. To misquote Bob Ross, practice is the pursuit of an interest over time, so anything you practice, you can get really good at. If you study and learn painting anywhere in the world today, it's always at its most fundamental core mixing and adding paint to a surface to create the illusion of whatever you're painting. Traditions, methods, and widely accepted norms are not always the pinnacle of artistic expression. Throughout history, artists have been celebrated for breaking the mold, challenging the status quo, and introducing new techniques or perspectives. Think of the Impressionists, which is one of my favorite painting styles. They were once laughed at for their unfinished and rough painting techniques. In fact, one of the greatest Impressionist artists of all time never sold a single painting while he was alive. And now his paintings are studied all over the world. When attempting to master any art, whether it's music, painting, sculpting, or any other discipline, it's very important to embrace the traditional, but also the unconventional. It's essential to keep an open mind, as long as it's not too open. There are some really weird ideas out there, but it's important to keep an open mind, and the great thing is, you don't just have to take my word for it. You can actually see the results of what I'm talking about. Half the painting here is just as much about what I didn't paint as it is about what I did paint. The light and shadow allow your mind to envision where the tentacles disappear to, and it allows you to imagine different angles of this character. Also, there's the overall question, which is, why is this octopus so sad? And on that note, this super sad octopus painting is finished. The painting and prints are now available on my website, SeanDayArt.com. Prints are very affordable, but nothing is quite as good as the original on canvas. So definitely make sure to grab this one while you can. And now, I present you with this finished painting. You can check out more of my artwork on my website, SeanDayArt.com. I have merchandise, original paintings, fan art paintings, prints, or you can submit a commission request, and shipping is always free anywhere in the US. Thank you so much for watching, liking, and sharing. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time.